All right, folks, I think we're going to go ahead and start it off and then just let folks get joined as they come on. I'm sure much more. We'll have a lot more folks joining on, but I want to also get us started so that we can get the full recording and get Dre has a lot to share with us. DeAndre got a lot to share with us. So welcome everyone to the Discover Career Chats. As you know, this is a monthly series where we're exposing the coordinators and ultimately the young people to folks who are doing kind of fascinating things and innovators and entrepreneurs and folks in the tech industry that are doing cutting edge and exploring with cutting edge technology and platforms. And without stealing too much of his thunder, DeAndre and I have been talking about doing something like this for a while. He's a brother I met a while ago in an entrepreneurship class, and is just super innovative, creative, accomplished, and serial entrepreneur as he'll get into. Again, the innovation program. What we want to do with it is we have a couple pillars that we want to do with the innovation program. And one is explore cutting edge technology, expose young people to it, and then really encourage them to be producers as opposed to just consumers of the work and constantly share best practices. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Brother DeAndre Moore, who has a lot of exciting things to share with you about his journey and what he's currently working on today. So, DeAndre,
All right, brother Jeff. Thank you. I appreciate you. How's everybody doing today? It's
Excellent.
awesome, awesome. Thank you for being here this morning. I know it's a little early, but you took a little moment out of your day to be here, so I appreciate that. And yeah, let's get started. Let me share my screen. All right, so obviously my name is DeAndre. You guys got that. People call me Dre, people call me D. People call me DeAndre. I'm from LA, Compton to be specific. Um, my classification, I'm an artist, designer, and serial entrepreneur. I feel like you could be an artist, but not a good designer. But so that's why I kind of like fuse the two because it's kind of dope to be a good artist and a good designer at the same time. I think there's just something like a really good meshing. I went to Otis College of Art and Design. I graduated in 2008. See, I forget. It's been so long. This is a small list of clients that I worked with over the years. Each have a special place in my heart. Superfad was the first studio that I worked for right out of college. And that was the place that actually got me off into my 3D artistry. So as far as I can vividly remember, you know, I was born an artist, right? I remember sketching with my mom and always comparing her work to mine. Her lines were so refined, and mine were just disproportionate, And I would always just admire how well and how well her line work was illustrated and rendered. It was just really nice. So I just kind of come from a family of artists. Um, and I remember the first time that I started to really deconstruct things, was probably around age 3 or 4. And that's when my career of dismantling things began. You know, I started taking cars, little toy cars apart, and just didn't put them back together, just tore them apart. I was that kid that just ripped it apart because I was curious to know how things worked. Um, and then, by age 6, I was stacking Lego bricks. By age 7, I was out on the street, finding random doors and old paint cans to make a bike ramp that I can jump. Didn't really worry about if I was going to hurt myself or not. I just was a thrill seeker. Around that same time, I taught myself how to roller skate. So that's the engineer's mind, right? Earlier, we touched on the artist's mind. This is the engineer's mind. In junior high school, I was in a math and a science program called MESA. That led me to develop interest in mathematics, engineering, and science. I enrolled into a medical magnet high school and studied medicine for 2 years. In my junior year, my art teacher convinced me to go to art school after I graduated because of my artistic abilities. While in high school, 10th grade to be exact, I got my first car, my little Ford Focus, manual transmission with the little exhaust system on it, and I immediately began adding performance enhancements. I was determined, so I bought an automotive handbook and began to go to work, changing camshafts, intakes, headers, suspension wheels, etc. That's my engineer's mind. Um, then fast forward to college, I thought I wanted to make games, but then I immediately realized that that motion graphics was the way. Um, this is kind of a small window into my college experience, right? So as you can see, some of the 3D stuff isn't really that well rendered. But this was me in my early stages of learning 3D. So the image on the right is the first pair of Jordans I ever had was a Jordan 9. So I had modeled that in 3D, and I was just so excited about being able to model a shoe in 3D. This was and some of these other things, like this prison cell or lighting these different items on the table, or this bust here. I was doing clay work as well in college, and this was a bust I was working on of Clint Eastwood that I actually never finished. This guy in the center, I was again an entrepreneur, so I wanted to create a clothing line. So I had a brand that I created called Royal Legacy, and I used, if anyone knows these images, these are American Apparel mock-ups, and I would just like impose my logos on them, just to like make my lookbooks. Uh, and then I was in the cars, so I did a 3D model of a salt flat racer. Um, Actually, I think I might have a physical image of that. And then that's my focus right there. And this is me working on my focus. And then in the garage, you see there's a 5.0 Mustang. So that was my other project car that I was working on. This is all while I was in college. This motorcycle here is my buddy's motorcycle, and sometimes I would ride that to school. And then the bottom image in the bottom left is a form from a class called Form in Space. So we had to use wood and glue and saws to create these different forms out of materials that we may not have been used to working or accustomed working with. So that was our foundational class, which was Form in Space, which got you familiar with shapes, function, and form. Um, what is 3D design? To me, 3D design is really about taking, you know, is taking the art, um, is the art of sorry, taking a concept or an idea and building it out into 3D space, right? Um, Sometimes it starts from a sketch, sometimes it goes right into 3D. I kind of flow in both processes. If I feel like sketching, I'll sketch. Uh, and sometimes my sketch palette is going straight to 3D. So this is one of my clients, big block. Actually, let me go back. So these images represent some shoe projects that I worked on in the past. So the top left is a company called Pseudo. It's a shoe company that made these shoes that didn't have that actually were a pseudo shoe. So the top half of the shoe was just a print. It didn't have shoelaces. It was just a slide-in shoe, but it looked like a shoe. That's why it was called pseudo. And then these black shoes. That's a football cleat that I worked on for Jalen Ramsey with a company called FCTRYLAB. And then this other shoe here, Doke, is a black owned shoe company. I helped them get the finalized design and get it ready for manufacturing. And this was just some 3D renders that I had did for them. This project I'm going to show you now is a project between a client of mine, Big Block, and ESPN. This is a project breakdown. There was a show called Iron Fist that was maybe 2012, 13. Oh, actually, no, maybe around 2014 or something like that. It was a show called Iron Fist, and this is when Conor McGregor was huge. So we did a VFX breakdown of the project. So please have a look. So this here is wireframe to texture, right? These are all the different maps to create veins, different things like that. This is a lighting map to show how the fist glows up. And then we track that to his fist. And then we do these different passes to make it look realistic. And then we do a simulation pass on the wall. So we track the wall, build a wall out in 3D, and then use like Houdini or something like that to create that explosion. And then you have the final product. And then these are just some higher res images of the work that I did with Pseudo. So you can kind of get a better look at the shoes and setup. And then this is again some style frames from Doke as well. And then now we can go to my portfolio. So here we have some different projects. So again, this is the Dope project. I worked on this game called Star Citizen, this FCTRYLAB. I've done stuff with Arculus, which is a cryptocurrency platform. I've worked with HP. I've done stuff for Fiat, Nike. I did some with a local brand called Courtsmith, Target, NVIDIA. So these are not all the things that I've done, but some stuff I couldn't show because of contractual stuff. But we can do let's do the Doke Cadence shoe. So I also did all the sound design as well as the animation, lighting, rendering, effects, compositing, art direction.
That's amazing.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. So usually when I do projects, I'm working with studios. But that was a completely solo project. And then this is the one right now I'm just showing you the stuff the frames that you saw. And then I'll go into some other work. This one was the Jalen Ramsey cleat here. So some of these things like the growing of the fabric. I use a software called Houdini, which is a node-based software to create these different types of threads and patterns and stuff like that. And then some of the other parts of the shoe, I used a program called Maya, uh, which I use it for lighting, rendering, and texturing and animation. bad. Then, is there anything that someone wants to see particularly? I'm sorry, because I can just go through a few of them, but if there's something that someone wants to see particularly, I can play that.
What's those Nikes right there? Those like,
These here.
yeah,
Okay, yeah, this was this was when Nike Lunar was like when they first dropped the Lunar campaign.
right.
Is there audio to this? Let's see.
Yeah, these look super clean, man.
So there were about 4 different artists that worked on this project.
Mm-hmm.
I helped with this shoe. My buddy Jamin did this shoe. And this was actually the first shoe project that I ever did.
What is it? So you're making the graphics on these like little ad drops, and then are you doing shoe design too? Is that right?
So these were already done. These shoes are already made.
Got you.
So with these shoes, this is all about, okay, they have a concept, they send us the shoe, we take pictures of it,
Hmm.
and then we build it out in 3D.
Right.
So I'm going to show you guys some 3D files of one of the shoes that I did for Doke, so you can kind of see the process. I can't show everything, but I'll show just the 3D files.
Right.
But yeah, usually with this, they'll send you a physical product, and then you use a camera to take pictures of the textures to get high-res images.
Hmm.
This is before scanners were a thing, right?
Right.
You can kind of capture all that with scanners and stuff like that. Um, yeah, so that was that one, but this one involved some design. This one was mainly already done. I made a few tweaks to it,
Hmm.
but I can't say that I can't say that I designed the entire shoe. I had a hand in it.
Hmm.
So yeah. But yeah, so that's some of the work, and I can let me show you a fun one. Let's do this this little Targets Wonder Packs one, just to kind of, incite the little child inside of you.
Use Houdini on a lot of projects. Is that like a go-to?
You said what?
Use Houdini on a lot of projects. Is that like a go-to?
Um, I use it when I see fit. So
Right.
for example, like I wanted to have that thread effect
Hmm.
on the shoe. So I used Houdini for that.
I see.
This particular project here, let me pull back. So, all right, so this, you see how this is growing on right here?
Hmm.
That's growing on. So I used voxels. So I used Cinema 4D for this.
Hmm.
So depending on what which software is going to be most efficient at the task, I use. So I know Houdini is going to be efficient for doing the threads and stuff like that, right?
Right.
I know that Cinema 4D is probably going to be really efficient at doing these voxels, because I can
Hmm.
export this voxel as a file format called an alembic, and that
Mm.
alembic is like a universal file. So I can take that file, bring it into Maya, and it's going to look the same way it looked inside of Cinema.
Hmm.
So, and I can tweak it. I can make it faster, slower. I can light it and texture it and everything.
Right.
DeAndre, for the folks who don't know what a voxel is, not me, because of course I know what one is. Of course. Nah, I have no idea what it is either.
Yeah, so voxels, think about tiny cubes. So think about okay, remember Sega Genesis? Uh
Hmm.
and it was like 16-bit, 32-bit, right?
Right.
And those bits, like the higher the bit rate, the smoother the characters were, right?
Hmm.
So think about voxels as pixels.
Okay.
The more voxels you have, the more density of voxels you have, then the smoother it's going to be,
Right.
right? The less the more blocky. So think about Minecraft versus
Mhm.
GTA. Let's just say that's the thing that
Right.
came in my head, right? You see, GTA smooth, Minecraft is blocky.
Got you.
Yep. Okay. So I think that's enough time on my portfolio. Um, then we'll go to actually let's stop there. I'm gonna share no what I'm gonna keep going and then I'll come back. So now going into this aspect, if you could if you can dream it, you can make it. So I'm all about merging silos, breaking silos, and just really letting your imagination run wild and being unhinged. I'm a proponent of, I love cars, I love motorcycles, I love art, I love fashion, right? So how can I fuse all those things? That's how I think, and that's how my process is with everything that I do. So this stuff here, this is a logo exploration of a brand that I created called Morrison Wade, and it's named after my grandfather and my brother. And it's all about holistic body care, it's, and just health and wellness, right? So this is like I said, this is a logo exploration that I did to get to the final logo, which is this one right here. And I just want to show you kind of like what my mental process was around developing the logo. I also want to show you how I incorporate technology into some of the things that we offer. I made a soap dish. This is, and what I started with was a 3D model, right? In Maya, I created this model using displacement maps. Displacement maps are maps that are black and white, and they can expand or contract a shape. So I used this, I 3D printed it, I made a silicone mold, and then I casted it in concrete, and this was the final design, the final shape that you got. And this is a soap dish that I created. Um, Beyond the brand, let's go to the website. Um, let's go to the story. So the whole Morrison Way story is all about uh, a legacy, right? Our bodies, music, and culture. And so when I created this brand, I wanted to create something that that embodied uh, nature, culture, and legacy and craftsmanship. My grandfather, he was a carpenter, so he worked well with his hands, handmade, right? My brother, he was in the music production. Okay, that's culture, that's music, right? So I wanted to create, use both of their imprints to create a resonance that people can relate to, right? We don't immediately think about health and wellness, but if I could use culture to bring people in and allow them to be curious about, oh, let me question the products that I'm putting on my body, right? Is this soap that I'm using clean? What about ingredients? What about this? What about that? So I used that story, that foundation to create this Morrison Wade brand. And if we go here, this is like an animation that I did just to kind of showcase some of the packaging and stuff like that. And then we have our different featured products, stuff like that. Now, this packaging is pretty unique because it's not like it on the market. What I did was I used something that was familiar to create something that's unique. So if you notice that the edges of the packaging looks like a milk carton top. So I wanted to use something that wasn't so foreign, that people used every day or even were familiar with their childhood, to create something that was nostalgic as well as being eco, because this is recyclable paper. And then this is kind of fusing music, right? Having this boom box with lavender coming out the speakers and the tape deck. Again, that's music, that's the imprint of music, right? The symphony of music, the symphony of culture. and then some photography to kind of, marry the medicinal aspect of the herbs and stuff like that. And then these are all 3D renders of some of the soaps that we have, right? And how I created these was I took pictures of the soaps themselves and made texture maps and mapped them onto 3D objects, and then rendered them to make them look how they look. Yeah, and then photography. So the a lot of the stuff like this, the shea butter container, this is just photography, mixed with a little bit of CG. These are all real products. This is not like a mock thing. Like I actually sell these products, but it's all about creating a certain type of vibe or energy around the product that can help tell the story, and also help people relate to it. So I'm all about story, and I'm all about bringing people together around community. Let's go to the next one. So let's kind of tap into the journey. So if you saw from my journey, I kind of uh, have had my hand in a few different things. Um, and when I think about becoming a 3D artist, or just even or being in the field of the arts, I think it's easier to get in than ever before because we have technology at our fingertips, right? We have YouTube University, but a lot of times that requires a lot of discipline and work ethic, right? And if you have those two, then great, you're an outlier. And that means that you're going to be productive, you're going to be able to get things done. But you're mostly going to be alone on the journey, right? But if you prefer the traditional method, then I'd say choose a school that's dedicated to the arts and has a strong faculty, and that's really dedicated to the student, right? Because a lot of times these institutions are money centers, you know, and people go into debt and stuff like that. But you got to have a plan if you're going to go into an institution. You're going to have to plan. You're going to have a plan regardless if you whether you go to the institution or not. But it's important to know your why when you step into these different spaces. When I think about software has gotten easier and cheaper. You know, you think about Maya, for example. Back in the day, Maya was like $5,000-$6,000. Now you can get it for, you know, $50 a month or something like that, right? Or you have things like what's the free one? I can't think of the name right now. I'm sorry.
Blender.
Blender, yeah, you have Blender, free software. Blender is so powerful. I remember when Blender first came out, it was like, okay, this has potential, but it wasn't even anything close to what it is now. Blender, you can do a full production in Blender and it's completely free. That is amazing.
Oh,
And it's all created by uh artists, people who are in the industry. They wanted to create something that was able to go into different pipelines that they can use in their workflow. And now people are using it for all sorts of things: architectural renderings, product design, motion graphics, uh, feature films. It's crazy, and it looks amazing. Uh, Even able to do anime style renderings with it. It's so powerful. Um, and in the age of AI, I think about that a lot as well. And I really encourage people to build a personal brand and really get good at what they do in order to stand out. See, I have a little note right here. It says use the seed analogy. So I'm going to use the seed analogy. Um, think of yourself I was talking to one of my students the other day, and this literally just came to me. But think about yourself as a seed, right? A seed wants to grow and blossom and maybe bear fruit so that the world can have a taste of it, right? So that moment that the seed is planted into the ground, it's building its foundation. No one knows what it's doing. No one can see it, but the seed knows that it's building its foundation. It has to get those base principles locked down, right? The root structure has to be implanted into the soil. And once that happens, it starts to breach the ground. And now that it breached the ground, it's now getting exposed to sunlight, and people are able to actually see it. Some people are, oh wow, the seed is now sprouted and it's now above ground. And people are observing it and watching it to see what it's going to do next. And the tree is just determined to get to the point to where it can bear fruit. It's not worried about, oh, what this person thinks of me or what that person thinks of me, what the other trees thinks about it. It's conserving resources to get to the next step. And as it grows bigger and bigger and bigger, right? That means the buzz is growing more and more and more. And people are now gathering around the tree. And they're like, oh my God, and such awe and disbelief. And finally, the tree bears its fruit. And people pick the fruit. Or the fruit hits the ground, they pick it up and they take a bite. And the tree is nobly there, and it's just people are, it's just in encapsulated into how sweet the fruit is. So if we can stay into that, if we can kind of tap into that mindset and always understand that we are a seed and we're constantly growing and evolving with the conditions of the world, but know that the end goal is to bear the fruits of whatever it is we wish to bear, then that's going to keep you inspired. That's going to keep you motivated and keep going, right? Keep your foundation strong. So don't be afraid to jump into the deep end, when you feel ready. And another thing too is like have people around you that have good eyes and that are trustworthy to critique your work. And just don't get discouraged. That's my last word is don't get discouraged, because it's a lot to be discouraged. It's easy to get discouraged, and it's even harder to stay inspired. Um, let me before questions, let me go to my other computer real quick. And I'm going to share some 3D work over here. All right, cool. So let me see. I am a tabs guru, so I got all these tabs open. All right, cool. So this is the Doke shoe, the one that you saw with with all the effects on it. It was growing and running and all that stuff. So usually when I build the shoes out, they start off with as a plane. So think about just one little piece here. So there's like an image here, and I'm literally building based off of that profile image. And then there's usually a top image. So I'm trying to get the shape of the shoe. Again, I don't have a physical prototype in front of me. It's literally me trying to articulate what that shape is going to be like and make sure that it makes sense. So this is how it all starts in the low res form, gray, low res. And then, let me see. And then from there, here we go. And then at some point you get to a point like this where things are getting more smoothed out, more detailed. And yeah, I'm making holes to create eyelets, different things like that. I'm adding more detail, more refinement. The shoe's starting to, instead of blocking, now I'm getting more refined shapes. And then after, I get all that stuff done, to when I get to a certain point, I start doing animatics. So this is like a grayscale animatic of one of the shots. I don't even know if we use this shot or not, but that's one of the grayscale animatics there, or at least a shot from the animatic. And then this is the Olympic file I was talking about. Come on, there we go. It's a little heavy. But yeah, this is the Olympic file, and you can see the mesh here is growing on, and it's just you can see the wireframe growing more and more and more. So yeah, so that's the Olympic file being brought into Maya, and now using a camera to animate around it. And then let me see. And then this is a oh, I think I opened up a piece of another package by accident. Oh yeah, now this is a file from the the pseudo project I was working on. So yeah, this is what a scene kind of looks like. Um, this is just the different pieces. This has a displacement map on it. So when I render it, you're going to see different textures and stuff on this. This has a texture. This has a texture, but these things are all UV mapped. So if I open this up here, you see this map here is called a UV map. So what it is I need this texture to look proportionally correct on this piece of geometry. So what I have to do is I have to iron this flat. So what I do is I do a projection from the top. It takes a snapshot of it, and then it comes over to this side, and then I smooth it out to flatten it to help with like the distortion, and then this is what you get, something like this. Um, and then that is that on that end. And I want to show you one more thing. Sorry. Let me go back to my other computer. Um, So yeah, these are just like some samples. Okay, so the client wanted the shoe profile to kind of have this type of vibe, the Adidas type of vibe. So we made sure that we match that inside of the animatic. So again, this is just a grayscale animatic of what I'm presenting to the client to say, hey, do you like these concepts? Do you like how these things are animating and moving? And they say yes or no. And from there, we tweak it. So these are just all preliminary stuff. And then I'll show you one more. And then this is another rough animatic here of like the first shot, right? This is how it looks in grayscale form before we add uh, textures and lighting to it. So it looks gray. It doesn't look so refined, but you're able to see um, how things are moving and what it ultimately feels like. And then you get to the final, which is what you saw um, on the reel. So now I'll open myself up to questions if anybody has any yeah, any questions that they want to shoot at me or ideas.
Uh, DeAndre, I got a question. What advice would you give to young people that we work with who are in the phase, let's say, of maybe they're heavily uh, right now sketching, or doing visual art, but kind of see themselves or want to get to a point where they're doing some more 3D modeling, animation, but they don't know the space between sketching or their interest in animation and actually getting to testing things out and experimenting. Like, what would your advice be for like right now, what they could do?
Honestly, I just say just go for it. You know what I mean? Like, don't let the easiest thing is to trick yourself off your own square. You know what I mean? So don't trick yourself off your square. Uh, what I would say is you have to believe in yourself. So put as much time, energy you can into perfecting your craft. Don't worry about comparing yourself to what you might see on social media and different things like that. I think that is a thing that is more of a deterrent than inspiration because we got to understand that we live in a world of a lot of fugaziness. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of fake things that are being presented to the public space that it's not actually real. It's all a perceived thing. So what I would say is just stay grounded in your purpose and who you are, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Because along the journey, you're gonna hit some bumps in the road. You're gonna have to pivot. You're gonna have to reframe. You're gonna have to do all these different things to make sure that you stay aligned with your mission. Because look, if okay, I'm a motion designer, right? AI drops. Oh my God, everything's burning. Oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. This, that industry is going to shift, this, that, and the other, right? That may be true. Maybe, maybe not, right? But you can't have that mindset of scarcity because if you have a mindset of scarcity, then you're not going to be able to move to the next step. You're gonna not be able to make the next step clearly, you know? So continue to evolve your craft and don't worry about what's I won't say don't worry, be conscientious of what's coming, but stay grounded in your craft and purpose and figure out how you could evolve with what's coming, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Man, I gotta ask this follow-up to Jeff's too, and like the philosophical poetic wisdom that you kind of like reply to that with, and watching how you move in that way. I'm just wondering, like in that philosophical realm, has the way that your mind works like this, like what interaction with your experience with design? Whereas like you're designing these physical things, but like the way that you're speaking is kind of like designing a worldview as well. Have you
Mhm.
found that those two things play into each other? Has physical design influenced your mental design process and vice versa?
Yeah. Um, yeah, so actually I can play onto that, right? So I have these vessels that I made, right? So these vessels, these are like some initial concepts, right? These are early stage concepts, right? And then this was like more of a final concept, right? Now if you look at the shape, you see that those line work in there? This is the sand. This is what the sand looks like when I'm at the beach, right? When like there's a windy day and the sand's blowing, you create these different types of waves and stuff like that in the sand, right? And when I hold it, I can have a really good grip on it, right? So I'm always going back to nature because nature is like the divine intelligence in everything. We are nature. I know I talk super philosophical, but it's just I'm a Pisces, you know, don't shoot me. Uh, but yeah, and that's kind of how I look at everything because how I grew up, I was a hothead. You know what I mean? I would get activated real quick and get unhinged real quick. But as I got older and wiser and experienced life more, I realized like, wait a second, nah, this is not the way to flow. The way to flow is is literally how wind flows, how water flows. It's smooth and fluid. But you use force when you need to. Now that doesn't mean fight, but it can mean using force to catapult an idea forward, right? Unrelentingly. So if you think about like the ocean when it's crashing against, the shore, people think that that is something that is so chaotic and violent. But if you understand the process, it's taking the minerals from the land and taking them back to the ocean. So, and there's formation happening there. Maybe a cave will get formed, or maybe some sort of ecosystem will get formed. So that's how I think about design is I look at everything and I try to find the thing that makes sense inside of it. If I look at a spider that was smashed, I'll try to figure out, okay, damn, that looks crazy, but let me figure out how to find something within that smashed spider that can give me a cool design.
Dang.
It sounds super weird, but
That's dope.
That's dope. Yeah, happy birthday, by the way, too.
thank you,
I
brother.
appreciate that sharing the way that you is looking at things and the way that you carry that over into the artwork too. And it's always good to hear from a fellow Pisces as well. I feel like that happens rarely for me. I'm over here like, yeah, 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 that's real.
Yeah,
Be
for
water,
sure.
my friends.
Yeah, yeah. Appreciate that. When's your birthday, by the way?
The 12th just passed.
Oh,
Well,
nice.
it feels like it just passed, but it was a second ago.
Right. Yeah, I'm the
Yeah, how
16th.
about you?
16th.
16th?
Yeah. So
All
we
right, we're neck and neck.
neck and neck right there. Yep.
Yeah, it's good Pisces season right now. That's what I've been feeling and hearing. We got good things in store.
In fact, that's a fact.
The website looks real clean too, man. I love how you took like the love from family and the inspiration from grandpa and brother and made it into to what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's like the ultimate struggle, I feel like a lot of times just to find a way to hustle in this system, right? The system that's made to kill us. But we
Yeah.
still have to stay afloat. We got to figure out how to do that. How am I supposed to incorporate my actual true self into
Yeah.
what I do? That's what's robbed of all of us. I feel that so strongly, that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. Make somebody feel sad. And it's like, this is valuable conversation. And it's good to see you doing this.
Mhm.
It's tight.
Man, I'm glad you said that, Tech Lou. Man, you just made an epiphany come back to me.
Oh, oh.
Yeah. So something that I want to add to the questions that were conveyed earlier is that
Mm-hmm.
look, don't lose the relationship with your inner child. It's
Mm.
very important. I was
Mm-hmm.
reflecting a few months ago and I said, man, what was it that I did as a kid that I just loved to do? And it was building. It was building stuff. I want to say the other word, but it was building stuff. And that is the thing that excites me the most is building things. So
Mm-hmm.
as an adult, please do not forget to
Mm-hmm.
show love to your inner child. That is the most important thing because this society, like you said, Tech Lou, is meant to break you down. It's meant to deconstruct you. But if you
Yes.
go, if you go back to who you were as an inner child, as a child, you realize that you were so innocent and pure. You had no boundaries. You weren't worried about, oh, what does so and so think about me? You were like, yeah, I'm going to do that tomorrow. You were fearless, right? And
That's
you
right.
have to have that same energy as an adult today is be fearless. Because with all this fear mongering going on,
Mm-hmm.
do not play that game. Be fearless
Right.
and just
Mm.
grab it, grab life, hug your inner child and just smash through that invisible barrier. Because it literally is
Yes.
an invisible barrier. It
Yes.
feels so real though, right? It feels so real. And it's
Yes.
real, but
Yes.
it's also invisible.
Mm-hmm. That's truth.
Yeah.
That's so real.
So thank you for bringing that up, bruh. Like that.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is
Mm,
kind of a similar thought, but just defending your own inner child and encouraging the youth that we work with today. That seed and the tree analogy. I feel like kids are in a big rush to try to like have that bear that fruit and like be in the light, with social media and all those kinds of like pressures that they're feeling at a younger age. So how do we defend our youth to like sort of defend that seed or who they are at their core when they're kind of in a rush to like to blow up and like be seen and everything? They kind of there's the fear that they might lose sight of who they are at their core. Like how do we help them to defend themselves and defend their seed and their inner self that way,
Good question, man. Oh, that's a good question.
That is a crazy good question. And we all have our own answers to it.
right.
You know what I mean? I don't think there's one answer to that, right? My ego says, "Oh yeah, and I can tell you that, right, and I can tell you that, I have my own answer, but it doesn't make it the right answer,
Right.
and I think a lot of it is something that I talk about a lot is there's a book by Malidoma Somé. He's an
Mm,
ancestor now. It's called Of Water and the Spirit. And he was kidnapped by Christian um what do you call those folks that go in missionaries.
missionary.
Yeah, they befriended his family, his village. His grandpa was a shaman, kidnapped him. He was in that school for many years, had to go back to his village, right? In
Mm-hmm.
order to be accepted back into his village, he had to go through the rites of passage.
Mm-hmm.
Him being a young adult, he had to go through the rites of passage, the initiation with kids. See what I'm saying?
Mm.
So there were kids teaching him how to survive in the wild, right? Um, he had to go into different spiritual realms,
Mm,
and he was warned to not be attached to those things in those realms because if you get attached to those things, you will not come back,
mm,
right? So we have to always constantly be reminded that hey, we are our saviors. We
mm-hmm.
are the creators and we are the destroyers of ideas,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we have to make sure that we're constantly affirming ourselves with words of affirmation, with different types of daily practices to keep us balanced, right? Because here's the thing: if you look at listen to the music today, it's very dark. It's
Mm-hmm.
very dark and draining. And even going on to social media, these things are meant to be addicting. So we have to be able to unplug from that and really, go into places like nature and kind of rediscover yourselves. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. Again, this is my
Mm-hmm.
answer. I'm not saying it is the answer, but we have to understand what the rites of passage looks like for each and every one of us. Uh, because it's very important because this new media is not raising adults. It's keeping people in a state of ignorance and confusion and
Mm-hmm.
destabilization. So we have to come back to our spirit. And we
The other thing, DeAndre, um, it seems like what you've done in your journey has and your persistence at your craft. There's always something in the persistence of a craft that sets you apart from the folks who are looking at shortcuts. And I think to Galen's question,
Mm,
I think a lot of young people, because of social media and stuff being so instantaneous, is people are constantly looking for shortcuts of how to get
right.
the fruit, how to get the attention without
Mm-hmm.
putting in the persistence and the perseverance and the failures and the learning the lessons from the failures, which actually, if they did it that way, would give them longitude, you know what I'm saying? Like a longitudinal sort of foundation, you know, and yeah, can you speak to that a little bit about, because the same question I was trying to form a question about AI
Mm,
in the midst of grinding the traditional way or learning a
yeah.
craft, as opposed to some of the shortcuts.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
No, okay. Thank you for kind of bringing me back on course because I'll go all over the place.
No, 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 go all the way
No,
over
it's all
there.
relevant.
Yes, so there is no shortcut to life. You know what I mean? You have to put in those hours. I'm not talking about 10,000. I'm not talking about any of that. You just have to put in the time, right? And I realized with the idea of wanting to take shortcuts, again, you will get tricked into believing that someone took a shortcut to get to this space. When in reality is they didn't see all the work that was being put in behind the scenes.
Mhm.
That's why that I'm glad you, Galen, the seed analogy. Yes, the seed analogy is so important because you don't see when people are building their structure and foundation. And here's the thing: if you try to take a shortcut, you're going to only shortchange yourself. Because here's the thing: let me ask you a question. How many people use GPS? Yeah, use GPS. I use GPS, right? Now, how hard is it to remember where to go or where to get to without GPS? How hard is it? It's pretty hard now, right? Because GPS has softened you. GPS has kind of eradicated some things from your memory bank. So that's the same thing when trying to do things in a quick way, is that okay, if you don't build that foundation, if you don't beat that idea or foundation into your spirit and into who you are, your essence, you're gonna forever have this thin veil. It's gonna be always be superficial. It's never gonna last. You got to really put in that work because AI, yes, it's a really cool tool. It can get you things faster, but if you depend on it too much, it's going to take away your creativity. And I'm not talking about the creativity that it gives to you. I'm talking about their creativity that you can just rely on when you wake up in the morning or right before you go to bed, you wake up, oh, I got this idea, not, oh, I'm going to put it in the AI. It's like, no, I got this idea. Let me try to flesh it out more. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you can't shortchange it because if you shortchange it, you're going to shortchange yourself. And I think that last example, if you're building a car and you skimp on a manufacturing process, we can look at some of these Teslas. We can look at some of these other cars. No gripe, no gripe. But I'm saying like build quality. If you think about it could be any car. I'm just saying, but people talk about the build quality of those cars. You can look at that compared to a Rolls Royce. That Rolls Royce is not going to fall apart. That Rolls Royce is going to be on that road and it's going to stay structured. So we have to understand what that can look like, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Great. I know we're a little bit over time right now, but DeAndre, I super appreciate it. I think that you gave us a lot to think about, a lot to share with our young people. This session, of course, is being recorded, and I encourage those on the call to share with your fellow coordinators. And of course, when it gets edited up, gather your young people and go back and share this out. So. Yeah, I really, again, appreciate it. And thanks for everyone for tuning in. Um, yeah, this has been another great Discover monthly series session. So thank you, DeAndre.
Thanks, brother.
Yes,
Thank you.
indeed.
Thank you. One more
Hella
thing.
good to meet
12,
you.
12 Jewels by the RZA. Y'all should have a rotation. The food, clothing, shelter, yeah, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Like they gotta tap into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thank
it,
you,
y'all.
DeAndre. It's hella
Appreciate
good to
y'all.
meet you. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you sharing with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would love to come to facilities and check them out, man. I'm definitely gonna tap in with y'all. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll hook that up.
Yeah, you belong inside of one of these clubhouses.